I think it is on me to speak in English because a lot of people would have expected for me to speak in English. Though I am a Hindi speaking person, I chose to write in English because I felt that the English speaking people need to know more about Sangha and our cultural ethos, because I have found that people who are educated from the English medium school without any aspersions on anybody tend to lose their roots much more easily. So that is the only reason I chose this. I chose to write on RSS because for the people outside the RSS, not within the RSS. Because I thought within RSS they believe in everything and my writing will not be required for them, and those outside need to know about RSS. So in that sense I am an accidental writer. I never was a writer. I did my first editing when I was just 34 years old. I did about 10 books for editing. Then finally, when I wrote my first book, I was 54-year-old in 2011. That was the time when RSS was accused of saffron terror, Hindu terror. That was the time when Times of India said Mohan Bhagaji has been chosen Sarsangha Chalak, but it's a secretive organization. So that rose my curiosity. What is secretive? Being an RSS person, I was habituated never to see any news about RSS, any good news about RSS. There was a journalist who came to meet Ram Madhavji in Mumbai when he was media in charge of RSS. So with great effort, I persuaded Ram Madhavji to have a meeting with him. 45 minutes interview. And the next day in the newspaper, the bottom anchor was RSS to decide from half pant to full pant. So this is the news. I mean, for 45 minutes, Ram Madhavji naturally wouldn't be discussing half pants and full pants. So that is how the view about RSS was. So my urge to write was urge to tell about RSS to people. That urge has taken me a long way. My first book was released in Delhi in 2011, and my seventh book on RSS is being released now in Delhi thanks to Sankrantji and Rajiv Tuliji. So thank you both. And in the meantime, a lot of things have changed. From being a saffron terror organization, at least people want to listen about RSS. People want to know about RSS. I've met many people who say that they have changed their views after reading my books, and that really is a big satisfaction for me. Coming to this book, it's a book based on a PhD thesis, which was understanding RSS through its resolutions, and I focused on Northeast, Punjab and Jammu Kashmir, the hottest spots in India since independence. And we chose it after going through all the resolutions. So Yashwant Pathak, who is co-author, was my guide for the PhD thesis. And he told me that people don't know what actually RSS says. People don't even know that RSS passes resolutions. And those are the only official policy statements that RSS makes. Till 1990, there was no media cell in RSS. There was no press interaction. Only thing that people wrote was resolutions copies, which nobody read. And that is the reason people never knew what was the RSS policy on a certain matter. So as we've sifted through the resolutions, I found that the most resolutions passed were on these disturbed areas, apart from national issues. For example, 25 resolutions on Jammu Kashmir, about 19 on Northeast, about 15 or 16 on Punjab, and continuously right from 1950 onwards, when these meetings started taking place, there is a sense of continuity about RSS stance. So we chose to focus on that. So my inquiry was about on a particular policy, what RSS policy was. Over the years, whether policy was consistent, if there is a fine-tuning or change in the stance, what was the cause for this? At the same time, when these resolutions are passed, what was the actual position in the society, in the nation? So, for example, if I pass a resolution about terrorist attack in Jammu Kashmir, then what is happening at that time? What was the media reaction? What were the leaders thinking? And what were the history writers of those time, contemporary history, were saying about it? So that gave a complete picture. So when I say this book is about RSS resolutions, it is actually not on resolutions. It is resolution which may be 1/3 of the content, 2/3 of the content is coming from outside sources. I have used minimal sources from within RSS because that creates a bias. There are, of course, personal talks with the pracharaks, with workers. There are some internal documents because that information is not available outside. But overall, after having seen what others were saying, then when RSS passes resolutions and asks its Swayamsevaks and people to do something on the ground, does RSS do it? Is there a follow-up? So whether you will find example of new organizations being created, you will find workers being specially deputed for the particular reason. For example, in Punjab, when Punjab Rashtriya Suraksha Samiti was organized, and this book is actually dedicated to Jai Krishan ji, who expired just about 2 years back. And when I met him, he was so happy that finally RSS documentation will be made about its contribution in Punjab struggle. He was not physically fit from waist below for certain reasons, and he was very happy. He had all the cuttings, he had all the documentation with him. And when you meet such people, you realize how a normal Swayamsevak, who has nothing else to look forward to, who has no post, he doesn't want any post, who sacrifices his life, takes all the risk. When he was asked whether he'll take the responsibility, he said yes. Then he said, you know what will happen? He said, yes, I'll get a bullet. So that's the spirit which keeps the RSS work going, and on the ground how people work. At the same time, when this was organized, RSS deputed 15 pracharaks from all over India to Punjab, specifically to look after the organizational work there, so that local RSS people could work on the ground to struggle for Sikh Hindu unity, which was the main effort of the Khalistanis to break that chain, to break that link, very strong bond. Similarly, you go to Jammu Kashmir, you find people who lost their own ones, but they were fighting the Pakistani attackers in 1947, in 1986. They were there. There is a Swayamsevak here who was part of the 1990 Exodus, whom I happen to know. And there are many such examples you find in the book. Every time, the underpinning of the entire struggle, of entire approach of RSS was the common cultural base of the nation. What we call unity in diversity, what exactly is the unity? What is the cultural unity of nation? You come to know when RSS tries to find unifying threads in what seems very diverse. There are people who try to use the fault lines to create fissures in the society, break the society, but there is RSS which uses same common threads to bring people together. So that has been approached in all the 3 regions. So after having seen what RSS does on the ground, then finally its vision over last 70 years, how it has helped simmer down the insurgency or the conflicts, how it has, although criticizing government all the time, it has also been able to help the government to find solutions to those areas. So whether it was continuous sustained effort against 370 or 35A, educating people, letting people know, working for the internally displaced Kashmiri brothers and sisters in Kashmir, exposing the citizenship law there, and sustained campaign for 370, which finally went after 70 years. Even the trifurcation of the states was proposed by RSS in way back 93-94. If you go to Northeast, it was continuous. If you know, there is continuous church domination and the terrorism which was being supported by the church. It is all in the documents. At the same time, realizing that they cannot overpower this, they cannot fight this church power there. The work there was more of seva, more of education, more of economic well-being, and reviving the faith of people in the tribal culture. Because the entire effort of the church was to break down the society, to break their confidence in the tribal culture, to tell them you are savages, you have no culture, and convert them and give them various offers. So there is a story about a Swayamsevak from Thane, Bhaiyaji Kane, who was requested by Guruji to go and start a school in Northeast, at that time Assam. So he opened a school 6 kilometers from Myanmar border, and it takes 2 days to go to that school. And he thought, I'll take some kids from here and take them to Mumbai, so people know what is the other part of Bharat. They will feel more close to each other, and will bring people here to Northeast. That is the idea still being worked. So when he decided it, the local people opposed it, saying you will take the kids there, you will sell them off, you will take away their kidney and whatnot. So he had a young child with him called Jayant. He's still there, he's still working for Northeast. He said, you take this kid, keep him with you. If I come back with your kids, you return my kid. It was not his son, by the way. He was his student. They agreed, and the student also agreed. Look at the faith. So the student stayed back in Manipur, and Bhaiyaji Kane brought those students to Mumbai. And now if you see, there are scores of hostels for Northeast people in Maharashtra, especially because Maharashtra has adopted Northeast. And that is how slowly the entire narrative around North is changed. After 2014, of course, with a lot of development, and you see this narrative has a change. So it doesn't happen overnight. Same, so if you look through an entire episode, you'll find how slowly and steadily, with a particular area, with a particular approach, with its own strength in mind, taking people along, RS has been able to change the situation on the ground. So that is the, in short, what I have done in the book. And of course, there are many other things which I will not talk about my conclusion, because conclusion is up to you. I have had my conclusions. I have also criticized a few points. And I must say that all my books, on my three famous books, RSS 360, Evolution from Organization to Movement, and this third book, wherever required, I have criticized RSS also. I must tell you, none of the RSS seniors have ever asked me why you did it. So this fascist organization has a lot of democracy, a lot of freedom of expression. So with this with talk, I know two seniors are there whom I also want to listen to. I thank them for agreeing to release my book. Thank you, Arunji. Thank you, Ramji. So I'll hand over the mic to Arunji. Dhanyavad.